now everything has been settled. But since the beginning of second month, Cheng Yujing began to feel inexplicable nervousness, even disturbing his sleep. And last night, she had a long dream. Before dawn, Cheng Yujing was suddenly awakened, soaked with cold sweat. Unable to fall asleep again, she laid in bed for a long time. It was just a dream, how ridiculous to take the dream as reality. But Cheng Yujing somehow felt that this was not simply a dream, but reality. In the dream, she saw herself, but not completely herself either. Like a puppet put on a string, she experienced the whole life of Cheng Yujing. In her dream, she was also born in the affluent Ichuan Marquis manor. The madam of the second branch Huancher gave birth to a pair of twin sisters. At this time, the eldest branch Madame Qingfu Junju had been married for 5 years but still childless. Instead, the newlywed daughter-in-law Huancher gave birth to 2 children after only 1 year. Although it was just a pair of daughters, they were still the auspicious first grandchildren of Qing family. So old Madame Qing took the lead and gave the elder twin to her eldest daughter-in-law, Qingfu Junju, as a lucky daughter. Later, the 2 sisters were named Cheng Yujing and Cheng Yuma. Cheng Yujing knew from a young age that she and her second cousin were fraternal twins. But she also understood that Huancher was her second aunt and her mother was only Qingfu Junju. Only Qingfu Junju. Cheng Yujing and Cheng Yuma looked alike when they were young. As they grew older and their facial features grew, the gap between the 2 sisters was also revealed. Cheng Yujing has a better health, more beautiful face, and a calmer personality. On the contrary, Cheng Yuma, because being born as twins already made her weaker than ordinary children, she was also born later, that made her even more weak and thin. In the family, not to mention old Madame Qing, Qingfu Junju, and the other family members, even servants who have been in Qing family for a long time could tell the difference between the sisters at a glance. But for outsiders, unless they carefully looked at their facial featureism, the appearance of the sisters from a family was already familiar, plus they were at the same age and girls tend to dress similarly, so they often confused. Cheng Yujing grew up having to explain "I am the eldest girl Yujing" daily, until she was 14 years old. That winter, in the heavy snow she rescued a man. The next year, she married him. That man was called Cheng Yuan. On the day of the wedding, Cheng Yujing brought 10 miles of red dowry, marrying Cheng Yuan with a great fanfare. Sisters still in boudoir envied her for marrying a good husband. Cheng Yuan was already titled Marquis at a young age, and as soon as Cheng Yujing married in, she became a marchioness, staying ahead at least 20 years than her peers. Moreover, Cheng Yuan just made military achievements in the Northwest last year. He was in the limelight and had a promising future. Such a husband was actually taken by Cheng Yujing, really made other girls angry. At the time, Cheng Yujing didn't know that she had become a villain in other people's story. After the marriage, the lives of Cheng Yujing and Cheng Yuan were roughly what she expected. Except that her mother-in-law was a little bit harder to deal, her husband was too stubborn, and the rules of the Hua family were too many. In the past few years, outsiders watched Cheng Yujing's glory, and thought that her life was very blessed. Only she knew the difficulty she met inside the closed door. But it's nothing. Every woman had to go through this path. She also didn't have to serve her mother-in-law and already taking control of the household management, which already better than many women. 2 years of marriage, she was finally pregnant. Cheng Yuan's father died when he was 7 years old and Shuesher was widowed since then. Over the years, she had been struggling to raise Cheng Yuan, and the mother and son were dependent on each other. Thus Shuesher had an extraordinary possessiveness towards his son. Ever since Cheng Yujing married, Shuesher has been hot and cold with Cheng Yujing, disturbing the time the couple spent together. Cheng Yujing had no choice but to follow her mother-in-law's wish and no longer be intimate with her husband. It was ridiculous that Shuesher did not let the wife get close with the husband, but still forced Cheng Yujing to give birth to grandson. Cheng Yujing couldn't even say out her grievance, so at the 2nd year of marriage, when the child arrived, one could imagine how happy she was. She immediately threw back the household management, and joyfully nurtured her pregnancy. Because she was bored, she invited her sister to visit. Previously, Cheng Yujing had not been close to Cheng Yuan, and after pregnancy she didn't allow him to touch her. During that time, Cheng Yuan was on leave and staying at home. Cheng Yuma also come to talk to her every day. Cheng Yujing touched her gradually risen belly, and felt happiness that her child, husband and sister were all around. It was really good years and she had no regrets. However, the servant girl's complexion around her became more and more strange. Durua several times tried to speak to her, but after seeing Cheng Yujin's happy expression, she hesitated. But Cheng Yujing wasn't a fool after all. She felt something was wrong and carefully asked her servant girls, only to know that when she was resting and nurtured her pregnancy, Cheng Yuan often chatted with Cheng Yuma with intimate smile and behavior. As if there was a thunderbolt in the sunny day, Cheng Yujin stunned on the spot. She ridiculed herself, wasting herself being proud with her so-called perfect boudoir, even didn't notice the water leaked out and making such a ridiculous mistake. Cheng Yujin thought that because she felt lack of energy and couldn't read the situation attentively as before, so allowed Cheng Yuan and Cheng Yuma to increase their chances of getting along and commit this kind of scandal. One was her husband and the other was her sister. Cheng Yujin didn't want to make trouble for either side anyway. So when Cheng Yuan went to the barracks to train soldiers, she called Cheng Yuma and spoke a lot. She thought that she had kept enough face for both parties. Any girl with a bit sensibility and still had some face must be understand what she had to do. Unexpectedly, Cheng Yuma understood her meaning, but she ran away crying and said that Cheng Yujin humiliated her. Cheng Yujin's personality was upright, so she ignored Cheng Yuma. That day, Cheng Yuma was drove out of Marquis Manor and sent home. Hu Shuesher sent someone to inquire, but Cheng Yujin just smiled and said nothing, preserving both Cheng Yuma and Cheng Yuan's reputation. She thought that as a wife and sister, she was already benevolent enough. She waited for Cheng Yuan to come back and give her an explanation. Unexpectedly, after Cheng Yuan came back from the barracks, when he heard that Cheng Yuma had left, he immediately turned around and chased her, leaving Cheng Yujin standing alone in front of the servants, unable to react. After Cheng Yuan came back, he stared at her coldly, saying that she was a poisonous woman. Until her death, Cheng Yujin still didn't understand. She took care of family affairs for Cheng Yuan and be patient to her mother-in-law, while her husband had a private affair with her sister. Which part of her a poisonous woman? What did she do wrong?
In depression, Cheng Yujing giving birth prematurely and had dystocia. After her child born, Hu Shuesher was busily tend to her grandson, neglecting Cheng Yujin who still laying on delivery bed. That day, Cheng Yujin had a heavy bleeding and soon died. After her dream self died, Cheng Yujin finally broke free from that nightmarish life. But her soul still trapped, floating in Jingyong Marquis Manor, watching the story developing further. It turned out that from another angle, the story was written like this.